Hello, I'm Tori Van Dusen-Roos, Principal and Chief Operations Officer of Diversified Brokerage Services in Minneapolis. I'm also proud to serve you this year as Treasurer for the NAILBA Executive Board of Directors. Throughout the NAILBA Engage Conference, there have been several discussions about the future of the life insurance industry and a lot of conversations around the digitization of the underwriting process. This will, one day, allow advisors and BGAs to stop putting so much focus on processing and gathering of requirements and allow us to put more of our efforts into business development and recruiting. As an industry, we've made a tremendous amount of progress around digitization this year alone due to the pandemic, and there's no going back. This is all good news because the ultimate outcome is to get us to a point where we see more individuals, families, and businesses have the coverage that they need. While preparing for our discussion, I received an email from Mark Hayden, CEO of Finseca, announcing the launch of an industry-wide campaign called Help Protect Our Families. The objective is to work towards closing the protection gap. Finseca, together with NAILBA, NAIFA, MDRT, Life Happens, LLC Global, ACLI, and over 60 of the largest carriers are joining forces to help protect 60 million Americans who have no life insurance or have far less than what they need. We have all heard the staggering statistics about the coverage gap in America, and it spans across all races and socioeconomic statuses. Even though the gap is daunting, there's a bit of a silver lining. Limmer conducted a study in May asking consumers specifically how COVID affects their likelihood to buy insurance over the next 12 months. The research shows that the pandemic has definitely increased consumer demand and mind share around life insurance to help protect against physical and financial risks. To be specific, 29% of consumers reported they're more likely to buy insurance in the next 12 months. This translates to a market opportunity of 75 million adults. Since this survey was conducted at the beginning of the pandemic, we can bet that the percentage is a lot higher now. Over the years, many carriers have created targeted marketing campaigns and initiatives to help advisors and BGAs tap into some of these markets that have the biggest coverage gaps. Today, we're here to talk about some of these resources, ideas, and tools that can help us all. Joining me on my panel today are Kathy Kavanaugh, Senior Vice President of Distribution Marketing for Lincoln Financial Group, and Jennifer Torneden, Senior Vice President of Sales and Strategic Growth for Legal General America. Welcome, and thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Tori.
Hi. So Jennifer, let me start with you. You have some important statistics regarding the buying power within specific communities. Would you mind sharing your insights?
Sure, absolutely. One of the challenges that we've all been faced as an industry is how do we create a slick digital process to get to some of these markets so that we're using data science, we're using technology to get some demographics. So, Tori, you and I were speaking the other day and I came across some really interesting statistics in the demographics. So if we were to take multicultural consumers in the United States and pull them together, it would be the third largest economy on the globe. So just to sort of break that down a little bit to show the opportunity, there's about $1.5 trillion of buying power in the U.S. Hispanic market. There's about $1.2 trillion of buying power in the African American market. And there's about a $900 billion buying power in the Asian market. So if we take all of those markets together and we combine them and look at how we reach those demographics, we're going to have to all be innovative and think outside of the box. So an idea might be is that in some communities, a lot of communities trust their local churches as advisories, right? And so could there be a possibility that we all are innovating and thinking outside of the box and coordinating and using churches as an advisory opportunity with our customers and to reach customers in a different and a new way. So I think with sort of COVID-19 pressing and accelerating the need for the adoption of digital processes, utilizing data technology and data science that will be able to get to these consumers in an easier and faster way. So there's a ton of opportunity and about a $12 trillion coverage gap that you were talking about earlier in your introduction.
Yeah, as you said, it's just an incredible opportunity. And of course, in the coming months and years ahead for distributing our products. Let's take a moment to dig into what resources there are for advisors and BGAs to help tap into these specific markets. Please take a moment and share with us what current or new target marketing initiatives or resources each of your carriers might have to offer. What new tools are emerging in this virtual environment that's likely to stay?
So Tori, I'll start. So for the consumer, we are investing in marketing and advertising. And what we're really focused on is encouraging families to have a financial conversation. In the current environment, families are talking more than ever. They're spending more time together, eating dinner together, doing video calls. And we have this environment where people's eyes are on the need for life insurance at a younger age, because COVID has obviously hit a lot of demographics that were just mentioned. So having that conversation about the financial future, our ad campaign, we call it Now You're Talking. And it's really focused on the consumer, with obviously the idea is to get the consumers talking, and then talking to not only to their families, but ultimately their advisors. And then on the back end of that, we have the tools, websites, calculators, where advisors can go and they can look at their overall portfolio, look at a customer. There are tools that guide them to their customers' portfolio to help them decide how much are the need for life insurance when it comes to their customers. They're just some of the tools we have. We have a lot more, but thought I would just bring those up.
Do you have any specific markets that you've got targeted campaigns for?
So we do, but I think what's interesting is, and there's a recent Wall Street Journal article that showed that life insurance applications were up in 2020. I think it was 4%, but it was in the term market, right? The 40 under term market. And at Lincoln, we have seen that exactly the same thing. I think ours were up maybe 25% in the 40 under term market. That's applications, not necessarily cases, right? So we talk about that market, and it's obviously a very important market, but that's just the cusp of what life insurance does, right? Is that term product. It's what people think that they want life insurance for, right? If you ask somebody why they want life insurance, normally the first thing they say is to cover their expenses for a funeral, right? They're not really thinking about the broader needs for life insurance. It's a great way to introduce them to life insurance, but there's clearly a lot more that life insurance could be doing. So we do have marketing initiatives and even sales force dedicated to some other markets. One example is business insurance, right? The small business owner who obviously got hit very hard this year. And so what are their needs? Planning for just helping their employees, key man insurance, right? Different types of needs. So we actually have a division in our distribution that's built out specifically for business insurance. We call it specialty markets, and we develop tools that are just specific to business insurance. So that's just one example of one of the markets we go after.
Great. Jennifer, anything to add here?
Sure. One of our biggest growth opportunity in areas that we see at Legal General is with our BGAs and our advisors. And so what we're doing around innovation is really, or to my earlier comment around data science and technology, is really finding ways to help advisors and BGAs and agents really grow their business. So how are we really doing this in reality and sort of in the real world is using data to help make faster decisions, to help really reduce that cycle time, right? So people can be more in the field, to be building more relationships. And we're also investing in technology to create a more efficient digital journey, which will help increase the placement rate. So again, so advisors can spend more time looking and innovating with new potential customer channels. We do know that over 73% of all term life insurance is purchased through intermediated channels with licensed agents and advisors. So it's a big opportunity, I think, for all of us to find even new customers and create those new types of customers through the earlier demographic statistics that I shared earlier in the conversation.
So you touched on this a little bit, but my next question was to dive into what other initiatives or processes has your company been working on to assist BGAs and advisors, making it easier to conduct business in these markets. I know that Lincoln too has a specific product line, but do you want to dive a little deeper on Horizon and the customer journey trying to create with that process?
Sure, and we're constantly iterating. In fact, we have a global hackathon going on right now where we're trying to even take some of our key ideas and accelerate them even faster across whether it's buying data externally, leveraging internal data faster, what types of partnerships that we can create for alternative distributions. But sort of the end goal is light touch, more instant decision capabilities. I would say more accelerated underwriting opportunities and more instant issues. So anything that we can do faster to also manage the journey up front and then sort of ingesting where the agent or advisor wants to be in that journey. I think it's a whole culture change as well from what I'm seeing and experiencing, because there is this sort of loss of the feeling of control, right? You're putting your customers into a journey. You want to manage what's going to happen into that journey from the very beginning. So really working with our partners and understanding where do they want the communication along the journey? Where can we improve? Where can we even be faster? Because we know that cycle time and placement rates are really, really important to drive efficiency and to expand market opportunity.
Well, instant issues sure is a delightful sentence for me, being in operations at our agency. Hopefully that is on the horizon much sooner than later. How about you, Kathy? Anything that Lincoln?
Yeah, there's two parts of it, and there is the doing business part that we're just talking about, and how we make it easier, faster, and more convenient for advisors, BGAs to do business with Lincoln. So we have online quick quote, electronic applications with e-signatures, an online interview tool, online case management, digital underwriting, electronic policy delivery, digital policy management, digital claims process. So, and this year accelerated all of that. Why it's been in the works for several years, this year absolutely accelerated the usage, the adoption of that, quite honestly. Not that they weren't there, but that adoption came fast and furious this year. But we also spent a lot of time on making sure that BJs have the tools to bring in the business, right? So we have spent a lot of time looking at what do BGAs need, what tools can we be providing them for their businesses that they can then use, and how do we customize those tools, and how do we provide information to BGAs that they might not necessarily have as easy access to as easy as we do at Lincoln. So we're developing a resource guide that will constantly be updated, that we can be sent out, that they can just learn not only what's going on at Lincoln, but what are some regulatory issues that they may not be aware of in a very simple way, and then they can share that throughout their agency as well. So we're focused on that. We're focused on turnkey packages to be used the same way. And I can't one thing that's really important is simplifying, right? So as we look at our business, we're all guilty of complicating it over the years. There's been a move over the last couple of years to really simplify how we talk about life insurance, the language we use, the complexity of the products. So we have a real focus on that too at Lincoln.
I really enjoy hearing about the deep dive into, the making it easier. I mean, that's really the key, and especially being able to get to the mass markets. We all know that it certainly doesn't mean it's any cheaper or less expensive, but it's not as profitable as going after those big, large affluent cases. But both markets are very important. So we appreciate the focus that Lincoln Financial Group and Legal General in America have put forth towards really allowing us to tap into those marketplaces easier. Now that you've both shared some of the resources available, do you have any specialized programs or advice for recruiting advisors to work in these specialized markets? Kathy, why don't you take this one, since LGA is pretty much exclusive to the BGA marketplace and does not really recruit advisors directly?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the best advice I would have is looking at demographics that can relate to the demographics that you would like to sell to. We all know that we have a older demographic in our business, and so bringing in that younger demographics, which many people are doing. We see it a lot with succession plans. You see a lot of people bringing on members of their family that are younger, and bringing people into social media and other ways to market. So I think the emphasis on reaching out to this younger demographic, I really think, it's such a great field for somebody to be in, and I think we do need to educate and reach college students and those, in their first 10 years of their careers, because it's such a great business to get into in so many ways, even just quality of life, right? So I think that just looking at the demographics, and not just age, right? There's lots of different, when I say that, there's lots of different demographics that we're trying to reach to. So having those types of practices that reach out to them.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the younger ages. We just recently got a couple of resumes across our director of operations desk for two individuals who graduated from college in Michigan with a degree in insurance. I do know that our very own Terry Getman, our business development director, has been working very closely with a few colleges in the United States that actually have a degree in insurance. And there's one in Michigan and I think another in Texas. So hopefully we can broaden that offering to a lot more colleges so that we can really get some young folks interested in this industry. Because
it's a brilliant idea. That's really a brilliant idea.
Definitely. And I know, speaking from experience of coming into the industry while actually being born into the industry, it's very exciting. There's constant change, constant strategy and direction. And so it's very exciting, at least to me. Maybe I'm just an insurance geek.
But plus you help people, right? You are helping people achieve their goals, their outcomes. And so that's really exciting. It's really fulfilling when people, the younger generations are very focused on purpose, right? And such a great purpose.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the few noble professions left, I think.
And Tori, to your earlier sort of question around recruiting different advisors, I think sort of also what's happened in this 2021 time period is a renewed focus on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think the more a company can walk the talk, whether through initiatives and partnerships, I know LGA we're doing that in a big way too. It's how do you set different thinking outside of the box on partnerships and really looking at where are the unconscious biases that could be there and really start talking more openly about those. And I think attracting new types of talent, as you're seeing, you just said, crossing your desk right now, will sort of come to you as well, as opposed to people going out and necessarily searching as well. So it's sort of opening up a lot more opportunities for I think different types of advisors.
Yeah, great point, and especially in today's environment. So we did have a diversity panel a couple of days ago through the Engage platform. So if you haven't seen that, be sure and check it out. It'll give more insights too into developing that and developing a strategy within your own agency and what some of the companies are doing as well. Let's move on. So you've outlined several opportunities for advisors and BGAs. Now we've discussed many of the tools available. What do you feel some of the barriers might be to working in these markets?
Well, one thing that I've really been reflecting and thinking about around opportunities and seeing more and more of how to sort of iterate and accelerate ideas is the possibility of partnering and building prototypes. So coming up with ideas, really going to a carrier partner saying, hey, let's partner together. Let's build a prototype. Let's test and learn. Let's not try to boil the ocean all at once. I think that will progress us further and further and further and more of a test and learn. I think what I've seen, and I've been in the P&C now in the life insurance space for quite a long time, and I think sometimes we feel like we have to be 100% correct before we enter, and it has to be 100% baked before we go out to the marketplace. So I think the InsurTech space is pushing all of us to be more outside of the box, more test and learn, search for new markets, new opportunities, given the fact that we have to have a faster, easier process. Like that should be almost a given in today's world where we are. And I think that will renew this whole ability to find new opportunities and into these demographic channels.
Yeah, I think what I would add to that are a couple things. We still have to, if you go back to the basics, right? We still have to get through this misconception of what life insurance is, right? And what it can be used for. The cost of life insurance, we've certainly done surveys where people misjudge how much life insurance costs. Term is obviously a very inexpensive way to buy an insurance policy, but they do misjudge how much insurance costs. I think that, again, I go back to making things easier, less complicated for people. And we've done surveys where we've learned that because people look at insurance and they say, well, I understand term and I'll buy a term policy, but if they understood all of the other things life insurance can do for you and how you can use it even during your life, then they become much more interested in purchasing a life insurance policy. So I think there's a whole educational component of this too. And I do know that groups are banding together. I think LIMRA is launching something right around now. As these groups band together and really focus on how do we educate, how do we get past these misconceptions and people really learn the real benefits that life insurance brings.
Yeah, and especially as we get to that instant issue point, especially for the transactional business, that will definitely give the BGAs a lot more opportunity to educate advisors and consumers as to the benefits of life insurance. So here's your big opportunity to give all of the advisors and BGAs that are out there listening, what can we do or what do we need to do better to tap into these markets?
Taking an idea and really truly focusing on building a prototype, that how do we get to that market and really test and learn together so that we're not necessarily relying on the BGA and advisor to go figure it out. And then there's also this trust that takes place and learning that takes place between the carrier and either the BGA or the advisor of sort of having skin in the game of figuring it out together, because it is achievable. And I think it has to do with what is needed to get there, right? Because going after some of these sort of younger markets, how do we get healthier younger people through a journey very fast, right? And then how do you pivot if there are some health issues or more of a higher risk candidate? How do we get them through a journey fast and efficiently as well too? And so I think those are where we just have to continue to partner, and that's where we're going to find this alternative ways of distributing the product. And there's still, as you mentioned earlier, Tori, a huge opportunity, huge opportunities for training, Kathy, like you were mentioning too, and understanding the need for life insurance. I think we've all learned a lot from companies like Lemonade, who have turned like the rental insurance market upside down. In fact, 70% of their customers are new customers to rental insurance because it was such a slick process. They didn't really have to sell why they needed it. And they were working with AI and behavioral economics. They got a quote, they bound, and they didn't go after customers that were trying to switch business. And then they grew with the customer, right? So now when you're assuming you're renting at a younger age, and then now you're going to be buying a home later in age, now you can sell homeowners insurance. So I think it's how do we go after these different demographics and allow these the customers to grow with us through their life cycle. I think there's a big miss still in the life cycle piece, and I think a lot of that can be solved with data. I think a lot of that can also be solved with building prototypes on what's the easiest way and to build the trust to sort of have customers inside a journey and let the customers go through a journey so that really advisors and BGAs can keep focusing on new customers. I think we're getting there. I think we're all talking and investing in the same areas, but I think speed, cycle time, placement is all going to be more and more important and really distinguish sort of the winners that are going to come out and be able to go after these channels.
I really appreciate your comments there, Jennifer. I know that, we've partnered with many different companies over the years on a lot of different initiatives. And the key there is to really be, go into it open, go into willing to learn from the carrier, because you guys do have so much more insight in a lot of different areas than the family-owned BGAs or even the larger BGAs. You've got a lot more resources, and then vice versa. The carrier partners willing to learn and listen to the BGAs as to what our real challenges are for all of us together to meet a goal. How about you, Kathy?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the same. Just even start by reaching out to existing clients, right? The opportunities with your existing clients, with their families, the opportunity there. Not being afraid to lean on your carrier partners, as you just said, very, very important. One thing that we did this past year is we launched a product agnostic program called Crisis to Confidence. And we really leaned into what was going on, not just from a financial perspective, but from what advisors was going on with them physically, mentally, their physical health, their mental health, and thus their consumers, their clients. So we really leaned into that, and we had great success, a lot of great engagement with advisors. They just were so appreciative of this type of content, and we saw them bringing it to their customers. So lean into content that's not just product, right? Focus on things that help your customers, because then they really start valuing you, for more than just that financial advice. You really become that partner in helping them, whatever their goal is or their outcome is, you're really helping them with that outcome. So I think there's lots of opportunities there.
Yeah, great advice. Well, we're running out of time here, but I want to just thank you both for sharing your thoughts and resources. I'm excited to learn more about the Help Protect Our Families campaign and the resources it will bring to BGAs and advisors. The time is now to get out and spread the word. Use the resources and ideas that we talked about today, and reach out to your Lincoln Financial Group or Legal and General America representatives for more details about what they have to offer. And thank you, Kathy and Jennifer, for engaging with us today.